I got a fitness partner. When I'm on a program with that guy and I am sending him my journal and my focus and my results and all that kind of stuff, IBL says the Hawthorne effect when people change how they act when others are around. Yeah, that's the power of a proper accountability partner. I didn't make my first six figures or multiple seven figures in sales, all that stuff. It didn't happen because I was hanging out with guys that, you know what I mean? You don't get to those places in your heart and mind if you're hanging out in scenarios where your accountability partners would be people that are complaining or people that are filling you with, accountability partners are going to be the guys that you want to be aligning with, are on the same wavelength. They got the same goal. They got the same focus. They got the same mission. They got the same vision. They got the same value system. A mentor is not someone that necessarily encompasses absolutely everything. I can't tell you that I have only one mentor. I mean, other than Jesus, I've got multiple mentors. But the point is that in your accountability, when you are picking that accountability partner and you know when you are journaling and you are sharing that journal in that area that you're wanting to make better, I want our people to understand how important it is that you are getting to that conclusion and how powerful it is that you're journaling that conclusion to the point where a coach doesn't even have to. Now, a coach is there to also pick up other blind spots and other pieces of the equation, but the sooner that you can get there to where you are actually assessing, addressing, and taking action accordingly as you're submitting that information, there is something special about, again, being able to go places with your accountability partner and being able to, as you're journaling, notice for yourself, what are the things that I need to do better? What are the things that I need to fix in this equation?
So, what are the secrets? How do some of the most successful entrepreneurs find the freedom that we all got into business for in the first place? How did they find the time, energy, and resources to launch and scale strong? And how do entrepreneurs like us align our time, money, and energy in a way that will allow us to reach what we set out to achieve? These are the key questions, and this community will give you the answers. Welcome to the Prosperity Movement.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the Prosperity U podcast. We're super excited to dive into today's topic. We're keeping it really simple with the three A's, and it's all about accountability. And those three A's are basically assess, address, and taking action accordingly. And so we're going into a deeper dive into what we mean by what gets measured gets managed, and the power of accountability surrounding not just one internal narrative, but the power of what happens when it actually becomes a collective agreed narrative. And that's what accountability is all about, is it's an agreed narrative. And yeah, let's kind of walk through that maybe in those three elements, and then kind of I had this tug towards that last part, but I feel like we want to build into that. So, like, why don't you kind of, from your perspective, Zach, kind of start off with like this three A's, like the assess, the address, and take action, and what it means to you and I mean maybe everything that you've experienced up to this point, and not just entrepreneurialism, but leadership and in trading, like all of the moving parts of life.
Yeah, so the word assess, it kind of has this lean, if you will, towards data. Assessing an assessment, although there are moments, I suppose, where you could do kind of an emotional assessment. But for the most part, assess to me is an external assessment. And the thing that you have to do, or you don't have to, the thing you get to do is you get to
Hey,
align.
that was a really good redirect. You caught yourself there. You knew
Yeah,
something was going to call you out. There's some
yeah.
account in the room.
Brian's here. I gotta use the right words. No, but the external things need to match up with external things. Internal things need to match up with internal things. None is more important than the other. They just have their own place. And so if we're assessing anything, if it's business metrics like KPIs, key performance indicators, or if it's like trading data, like what's your win rate, what's your average win amount, average loss, all of that stuff is
Conversation we've been having a lot of lately, parenting. It goes
parenting.
across the board. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, somebody.
Yeah. So all external things need to be um, addressed externally. So what I mean by that, I'll tell you just kind of some of what people fall into, kind of a trap that people fall into, is if you don't like the external data, you look for internal solutions. No, that's not the right way to go about it. So if you, for example, let's say that you um, are trading and you're following everything 100% perfectly, and your data comes out not as good as you wanted it to, that's still very external as long as it's an external problem. Okay. So if the external problem, for example, what if the broker just has too big of spreads? You switch brokers, right? Um, versus on the flip side, internal needs to stay with internal. If you didn't follow your plan and you are purposely not having discipline, or even unintentionally not, everything's intentional, you're not following your plan, well, that's an internal thing. That's a discipline thing. It's not an external thing. And so you got to find an internal solution to fix that internal problem. So when you assess, you got to kind of separate what's external, what's internal, because your solutions should match that. So it kind of
Yeah,
makes
I think solutions are always, regardless of even what's happening, it's still an internal. So here's what I mean. So like there are things that are in your control in life, and there are still things that are not in your control in life, and they're, like even with the things that are uncontrollable, like this is where again you can, you know, going too far off the beaten path here, but like, you know, we've got this pursuit of happiness thing going on, in the American dream. At the same time, it's like happiness is a happening, right? It's like it's we seem to be chasing these external things when ultimately in life anything and everything could be happening all at once. Like I mean, like I said, like last week my grandfather had a heart attack. Like I did go places. Like we were preparing, I kid you not, we were preparing to go to a funeral because of the dialogues that were being exchanged and all that kind of stuff, and it looked pretty heavy. It looked really, really. So I did some crying. I prepared, and and the same time I went deeper into it, and somehow I end up like I get to my hometown, and I had a couple phone calls, and brothers just happened to know, okay, I'm in the area, and then all of a sudden I'm at a like this massive event, and I'm speaking, and I'm a worship leader, so all of a sudden I'm leading worship, and I'm speaking, and we're praying and declaring, and all these crazy awesome things happen, and within the day things shift and they turn around. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is like again, happiness is a happening, but joy is something that you can choose, and it's kind of like also the same thing surrounding whether it's data within business or data within your family. If you're journaling and you're kind of keeping track of the external things that are happening, whether the kids are not listening or my spouse is not listening or whatever those moving elements are, or again, I might not be seeing or understanding what's happening in my trading plan. And I'm starting to feel really frustrated with this. Um, what are the things that I can do internally to, again, so we've now assessed, we're in a process of assessment, but gathering as much information as I possibly can, and then internally looking at how I'm now going to address this. So how do I now address and take again action accordingly in whatever problem I'm faced with? It's simple, not necessarily always easy, but it's a simple thing, man. Like you and I were also just talking about this earlier of like we live in a very like fast food focused everything now type of culture, whereas sometimes more effectively taking a minute, like
yeah.
do I need to have all the answers right this second, or could I be seeking a little deeper to kind of get there internally? to
Hmm.
again address and take action accordingly in a little bit of a wiser, more effective way.
Yeah.
In business, for example, some people feel like they need to be busy. And if things aren't going the way that they feel that they need to be, they need to grind it out and force something to happen.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes it's like there could be a much more effective thing
You're
by
actually you're totally illustrating what I was saying before, because it's like if the challenge is happiness and you're letting something external affect how you feel internally, that's what I'm saying is if you can separate those, you can really conquer a lot of challenges and trials in life. On the flip side, solutions, if they do match. So like if oh, what was the last little example you were just saying that I interrupted you on?
were we talking about business and feeling like you need to be busy and
Yes, thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is definitely an internal. It's not valid. It's not an externally verifiable truth, right? It is just I feel that if something is off, I need to be busy to fix it.
mm,
That's an internal challenge. And so, what can you do? What actions can be taken to address that? But that's the correct solution there is not to be busy, right? But it's to like take a step back and reflect, maybe say some prayers, read some scripture.
100%. And so like and here's another example for you. So like in gathering data too, like let's move directly into trading. So
Yeah.
like a young guy in one of our locations here that we're mentoring, and he's a young guy who just got out of the hospital from a manic episode, and he's a little trooper, man. He's fun to witness the change that's been going through him. But he's really disciplined. He went from last week being in a deficit, being in a deficit, being in a deficit. He's up a couple of pips right now, but he also shifted how many plays he was making. So he started making little plays. So, like, he's obviously not where he wants to be right now in the trading aspects of things. But I've told him as you're gathering your data, I'm not telling you that you can't because some people will think that they need to okay, just one session, 1 hour, and that's it. And then after that, and that's one way of gathering data. I said, you've got the time right now, dude. And if you do have the time, great. I'm not saying you can't have multiple sessions. What I am saying is that think of it like baseball. As you're gathering the data and okay, well, I just struck out. Well, what happens after you strike out? Do you go for another swing?
No, you're out.
Part of the
That's
rules is you're out. You got to go sit on the bench for a little bit, right? But how many innings are there?
You're asking the wrong guy. I want to say 7 or 9. I can't
9.
remember.
There's
9.
9 in baseball. Like a cat has 9 lives. There's 9 innings. There's baseball's for cat lovers and hockey's for dogs. But but
Okay, okay, Canada. All right.
anyway, gonna go play hockey this afternoon. But yeah, so like there's 9 innings. So like I'm not saying you can't have another session, but the reality is that like do not do it out of because what are some of the biggest problems that we see in trading of reasons why people get themselves into trouble?
Overtrading is definitely a big one. So just trading like too many trades in a single session, you're chasing things, chasing losses.
Right, but there's something bigger than that because we do actually have all day sessions with James. What's the difference between that and what the real internal problem is?
Lack of discipline.
Okay. And what does that look like if we're assessing, addressing, and understanding how to take action here? What if we see it across the board? Uh, oh, somebody's making a comment here. Getting set up with trading, so it's just another thing in plate. So you have to go with the flow. Sometimes it seems you need to give it to God. Sometimes you have to get up and walk away for a while. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Richard, we're gonna dive deeper into this as well. So like as we're gathering the data, like what do we typically see in our data from our students that are actually submitting their information to us when we're seeing that there's losses, and sometimes it could be anything from 20 to 30 points, 30 pips. Some are getting really silly at times, but more times than not, what is the thing?
Hmm. I'm not sure. The lack of accountability.
Well, I mean, you did say discipline, and I just know that they're not following a specific rule of, again, how many trades that they're
Yeah.
allowing in that session, and they are like, now it becomes revenge, and now it becomes like, I need to get this back. And Richard's saying, I'm guessing is because we're not following our plan more times than not. If we actually open their plan, I think you said you were doing this last night. You opened up their plan. Did they follow their plan? More times than not, it's that they didn't follow their plan, and they probably, whether or not they have a three strike rule, more times than not, it's like you see like 6, 8, 10. Like, what are they doing having in that like a 4, 5, 10 minute window having that many trades
Yeah.
happen? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So like
definitely.
I have this young man on a three strike rule. So okay, boom, three strikes, you're out in that session. I'm not saying that you can't have another inning, but what do you need to do in order to go back to that next inning?
Assess, address.
Assess and address. I let him know that you should be journaling absolutely everything. And now let's move to the accountability part. There's something special that happens when you have an accountability partner, because it's one thing for you to journal, but when you know that someone else's eyes are going to be looking at this, what do you do?
You're much more careful
With what?
with your trading that you don't do something silly.
Not just that, but with your journaling. What are you much more careful of in your journaling?
Hmm. That you do it.
Well, no, here's the deal, man. I got a fitness partner, and this guy is in his 50s. And like, if we would be back in the, like, the medieval days, or like the days where they had arenas and gladiators and stuff like that, this guy would definitely be that guy. Yeah, he'd be the coach, the one who made it the furthest. Anyways, here's what I know. When I'm on a program with that guy and I am sending him my journal and my focus and my results and all that kind of stuff, what do you think my journal has in it that I wouldn't have with anyone else?
Hmm. Some more details, explanations.
Mm-hmm. 110%. Because now I cannot BS my way through any of it.
Yeah.
I cannot BS, and this is where Cameron's saying is like, always good to have a trainer that scares you a little. It's true. Yeah.
I hope you're
Oh.
not referring to me, Cameron. Last night, everyone was like, Zach is so scary.
IBL says the Hawthorne effect. What is the Hawthorne effect? Just so I know what that is. Talk about that. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm such a scary guy.
Hawthorne effect, or someone's gonna Google it with me here. But like, we'll come back to that, I'm sure. When people change how they act when others are around. Yeah, that's the power of a proper accountability partner. Like, Ed Milet talks about this a lot. He talks about the temperature in the room and why it's important to hang out. And that's why, like, having a community of actual like 6, 7, and 8 figure earners. Like, I hang out with guys. Golfers replaced their divots when I was around. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, but like, I I didn't make my first six figures because I was hanging out with guys that were and then or multiple seven figures in sales, all that stuff. It didn't happen because I was hanging out with guys that, you know what I mean? Like, and then
Mhm.
the trading, like getting to the point of like being able to have a what was it, 2004, 43,000 in a week trading, like I got to see my first $40,000 trade day a few years ago on a broker. And it was like, that's even possible. And then hanging out with a guy that, is like, last I recall is like a $2.5 million trade day with PAM accounts,
Yeah.
like, and you don't get to those places in your heart and mind if you're hanging out in scenarios where your accountability partners would be people that are complaining or people that are filling you with, accountability partners are going to be the guys that you want to be aligning with, that you've that are on the same wavelength. They got the same goal, they got the same focus, they got the same mission, they got the same vision, they got the same value system. um, a mentor is not someone that necessarily encompasses absolutely everything. Like I can't tell you that I have only one mentor. I mean, other than Jesus. Like Jesus is the one mentor that is the absolute all-encompassing mentor. But in terms of like I've got multiple mentors. Like I've got mentors, marriage mentors. I've got, financial mentors. I got fitness mentors. I got like there are, and I do have that one mentor. He actually holds a lot of hats in a lot of those areas as well, to be fair. But the point is that in your accountability, when you are picking that accountability partner and you know that you need to now, when you are journaling and you are sharing that journal in that area that you're wanting to make better, you now have to like, I want our people to understand how important it is in your journal that you are getting to that conclusion as you are journaling,
Hmm.
and how powerful it is that you're journaling that conclusion to the point where a coach doesn't even have to. Now, a coach is there to also pick up other blind spots and other pieces of the equation, but the sooner that you can get there to where you are actually assessing, addressing, and taking action accordingly as you're submitting that information. Like I can tell you right now with that fitness partner, um, I I had this moment a few weeks ago as I was journaling, and I realized, so I have a ratio that I'm looking for surrounding my macros. It's a 40-40-20 ratio. And I'm looking like 2,000 calorie, in and around the 2,000 calorie mark. That's like my sweet spot. Then I'm allotted up to 2,500, and 3,000 is like red zone. Okay. So like this is like that's the scale at which, right? So when I started hitting the 2,500 mark a few weeks ago, and then I also noticed that like I was grabbing snacks, certain kinds of snacks that like it was within, and it's fine. Like even in my program, I can have a burger, I can have a piece of pizza, I can do those things because I'm counting the macros, and it works out. It's fine. But I started grabbing some things that was an addition on top of, and I started to notice something as I was journaling, and it was a stressor. There was a trigger that was causing me to do this. So by the second day of doing it, first of all, I grabbed the dang snacks and I said, I'm giving these to my mother-in-law. So so I gave them to my mother-in-law, but I was like, I could like, because a part of that too is like, I trust this guy enough to be able to say, look, like I can tell, and like, pray for me on this too, bud, because like I'm actually dealing with something that I normally am not dealing with over here. That's causing me to kind of move a little bit outside of, and I'm a little bit triggered. So I was able to identify those things. Now, we got to be careful with analysis paralysis, but there is something special about, again, being able to go places with your accountability partner and being able to, as you're journaling, notice for yourself, what are the things that I need to do better? What are the things that I need to fix in this equation? Is this a part
And
of my...
that's kind of Yeah, that's kind of like next level, right? So you look at anyone that's successful at anything, at a sport, a musician, anything like that. They have that. They have that self accountability, that self discipline. And, if you don't currently possess that, don't feel bad. It's kind of a natural thing, right? If growing up, going to school, if you had a substitute teacher, did you behave as well as when it was the normal teacher? Most people, not really. You're a little bit slacking off. You're willing to be a little more rowdy. At least I was when I was in school. My friends and I would mess with the sub because we were jerks. But or what if you have a day job, you have a regular job, and the boss is out that day? Do you work just as hard? And the answer is most people, no. It's a natural tendency, and it's okay, which is why to start, it's good to have an accountability partner to help you move through that and not fall into that trap. And
Totally.
eventually, what Brian is saying, 100%, you can actually self identify
It
and
should be happening as you're going. Now, to be fair, like I'll use music as an example because I was in the music industry, and some of y'all know my story. Used to joke about how I used to live in a van down by the river singing for my supper, sort of thing. But then got to work with top 20 artists, Canadian Idol judge, and then toured all over North America on a $1 million tour bus. Like I played guitar like an animal, and I remember getting to the point of getting frustrated and like wanting to just you've seen those angry guitar videos,
yeah.
I put in the time seriously. And then I got to work with producers. And working with the producer, I'll tell you what, man, I walked in there and like this was hard. I'm not saying that this is definitely not the coaching that you see at Prosperity Movement. Maybe from James. James. You might get this from James. You might get belted from James like this on this level, but like I remember I go in and I was playing guitar and like I was getting into singing at this time. So I came in and I would sing and I'd play guitar parts and my producer at the time literally would say, "Okay, yeah, awesome. Not actually, no, sorry, you suck. Let me show you how much you suck." He would literally say, "Let me show you how much you suck." And so he would like literally like when you start to learn how to play to a click, there's a grid on like the DAW systems. That's what we record through. So it's a click and it's a grid, and you can actually see. So you can actually see the wave files, and if there's this push or this pull, it would be either before the click or after the click, and it would just like this push and pull. And he's like, "See, I want you to see and understand like how much this sucks and what it actually means to suck on this level. Because when you're pushing past over here, that creates, do you feel that anxiety? Can you actually, now you can actually not only see, you can see it and you can feel it, right? Like it's so bad." And then he feel like, and see over here. And so like he was able to show it to me. And he said, "Now go home and practice and stop wasting my time. You're wasting both our time." When you come back, like actually be good. So I go home and I practice all the things he showed me and he taught me. Anyway, I just don't want to scare anyone. None of the coaches here, other than James, might actually, I'll be honest, James might actually slap you around in such a fashion. But for the most part, we're able to see, things in the system that it's been so cool to watch Matt and see how he can identify a lot of things with people.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good example, actually, because Matt definitely got yelled at several times from James.
Yeah.
Um, and Matt came in literally with the intention of becoming a coach. Told us right up front, "I want to come in here, I want to be a coach." We said, "Okay, well, you got to get you got to get trading down pat." And so he's like, "Okay." And so he started meeting with James every week, and I was a part of those calls, and James ripped him a new one almost every week for months. And what were you thinking with this entry? What tell me how that's good. What's good about that? And Matt would be like, you know, and it was great. But you
And
know,
and sure, like I knew, and I was very clear with my mentors where I wanted to go. Again, I was working with, I wanted to work with top 20. I wanted to get to top 20. I wanted to get to those stages, and I did. But it was through my mentors understood what I was trying to do, and they weren't afraid to completely like bite through me if need be because they knew what was required in order to get at that level. Right. And so like that's why now we've got this new accountability system. And I want to encourage anybody who hasn't already the roundtable focus. Like you got to get super incredibly detailed with what your focus is with our coaches and everything like that. And I think I wonder if there's an opening in the future for us to like um, identify whether or not they they would be open and willing to go some of the levels that we can go if we want to with coaching. But the reality is, um, you know, there are some extra layers and levels, and I want to help identify that a little bit more within our community of the types of learners as well. Lots of light bulbs are going off. Within the last year, we've got over a dozen people that have graduated into prop firm focus. A student recently had a $12,000 day copy trading 3 different accounts. That's prop firm. That was take home. Just sat down with a student the other day. 27,000 is where he was at. I think closer to 30 since we last chatted. But for the year, and so setting up new structures with that. So there's some really, really great things happening within the community, and also there are some realities of people, having to work through some really tough stuff because this is a real skill set that requires some real discipline and going places that we've never gone before in order to get to where we want to go. And it's really cool to see that people are stepping up into that, and all these people that are seeing the success. These guys that signed up in December of 2023, January of 2024. And so it's exciting to see, people progress. Like even this young man that's here, obviously, within the last week, he went from losing to he's not losing now. And, we're going to get to moving some actual pips in the coming weeks. But I just want to encourage everybody too. Progress is progress. And we've got to not be so critical of ourselves in the process of building in this skill set as well. Look at the progress and focus on what you're wanting to achieve. And yes, it's important to identify the things that need to be fixed, but let's not sit and live in those things either, right? So,
100%. Yeah.
like, get the data from the last 100 pitches and plays, and let's get another 100 in there, and let's get moving and grooving.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm saying, please push. I would love to be pushed and learn. Love it.
All
Let's go.
right. Richard's gonna see why everyone's scared of me.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Adios.